Roads are built to connect communities together, but with a range of different terrains that need to be crossed, some roads have had to twist and turn around unique obstacles and obstructions, treacherous passes and death-defying cliffs. Today, we'll be taking a look at the top 15 most dangerous mountain roads in the world. Number 15. Los Libertadores Pass, Argentina, Chile. The Los Libertadores Pass is a vital mountain route that connects Santiago in Chile with Mendoza City in Argentina and functions as the main artery between the two countries, so is subjected to large volumes of traffic. The main feature of the road is the Cristo Redentor Tunnel, which is a 10,000-foot-long crossing through the middle of a mountain at an altitude of 10,500 feet above sea level, and has the border between the two countries in the center. On the Argentinian side of the tunnel, there's a gentle slope road down to the base of the mountain, but on the Chilean side, things are a little more complicated. Without a natural slope to work with, engineers had to carve a series of switchbacks into the mountainside, which has resulted in a road that twists and curves back onto itself to provide drivers with a smooth incline. While the road itself presents various hazards that drivers have to be careful about negotiating, the mountainous region is also subjected to regular snowfall and rock slides, which pose further hazards. In 2013, the tunnel was blocked by falling debris, and this stranded 15,000 Chileans on the Argentinian side in sub-zero temperatures. Number 14. Sichuan-Tibet Highway, China. The Sichuan-Tibet Highway, which is officially called China National Highway 318, is the longest road in China at 3,403 miles long, and connects Shanghai at one end to Jiangmu and the Tibetan border at the other side. It's the stretch that runs between Lhasa in Tibet with Chengdu in the Sichuan province that's most spectacular and dangerous though, because this is all at altitude. Along this road, you should expect to encounter hairpin bends, frequent rock slides and avalanches, and the bridge that passes above the Nujiang River is particularly frightening in unpredictable weather. Tibetans have little choice but to use this dangerous road to trade with China, but even its construction was a deadly job. It's thought that as many as 1,000 people died while building the road, and an average of up to 100 people are involved in fatal accidents on it every year, normally because they've misjudged their approach to a sharp turn. If you can overcome this risk, however, it's one of the most beautiful routes you can ever drive along. With mountains and glaciers surrounding it, there's a picturesque vista in virtually every direction. And it's no wonder that the road is popular with sightseers as well as tradespeople. Number 13. Bayburt Highway, Turkey. Turkey's Bayburt Highway, which goes by the official designation of D915, was built by Russian soldiers in 1916 to connect regions of the country that were under their control. It stretches 111 miles from a town called Of, which is in Trabzon on the coast of the Black Sea, with the mountain town of Askale. It runs vaguely north to south, and it's in the northern section between Of and Bayburt that's often regarded as being the most dangerous road to drive on in the world. The reason for this is the techniques the builders needed to use to cross the Karadeniz mountain range, and at one point it reaches a maximum altitude of 6,600 feet. The route features 29 hairpin turns, and to make things more difficult, only the beginning and end sections are covered with asphalt, with the remaining road simply being gravel. This makes the road especially dangerous during wet, snowy, stormy, and dark conditions, and it can quite often be many months before those who have disappeared on the road are finally found. Within the northern section, the most famous stretch is near the town of Kekara. It's just 3.2 miles long, but has 13 hairpin turns and changes elevation of around 1,000 feet in that part alone. Number 12. Karakoram Highway, Pakistan. The Karakoram Highway begins in Hassan Abdal in Pakistan and crosses the border into China, where it becomes the China National Highway 314. It's the highest paved road in the world, reaching a maximum elevation of 15,400 feet at the Khardung Pass, where the border crossing is located. Also known as the China-Pakistan Friendship Highway, it was built between 1959 and 1979 to provide vital connection between the two countries. As it passes through such extreme altitudes and mountainous terrain, it was an extremely dangerous construction process and cost the lives of 810 Pakistani workers and 200 Chinese workers, most of them who fell victim to landslides that were triggered by the drills. It's a stunning route that passes through mountains and across glaciers, and you can even see the western end of the Himalayas from the road. But this brings rapidly changing weather conditions that can easily catch unprepared drivers off guard. During the winter, it's usually completely closed because of the snowdrifts that make it impossible to traverse. And the meltwater in the spring is arguably when it's at its most dangerous because the ground becomes so unstable. There's also the threat of the monsoons during the summer months, which often lead to stretches of the road being closed for hours or days until the water subsides, meaning that if you ever do decide to drive along the route, you'll need to be prepared for the journey to take far longer than it looks like it should take on paper. Number 11. Guolang Tunnel Road, China. Sometimes when planning a road, the only choice is to go through the mountainous terrain that you're trying to cross, and there's nowhere on Earth where this is quite as clear as the Guolang Tunnel Road in the Henan province of China. The small village which the tunnel was named after was, for a long time, virtually isolated from the outside world, and the only way to get there was by a treacherous mountain path that wasn't suitable for vehicles. As the village is in a valley that's surrounded by mountains on all sides, villagers realized they had to do something drastic to improve connections, especially as they were hardly a priority for the country's government to provide a solution. A group of locals sold their livestock in 1972 to raise enough funds to construct a mountain tunnel, and did everything by themselves. They didn't have any power tools, so carved the rock with hammers and chisels, and produced a 3/4-mile long tunnel that's 16 feet tall and 13 feet wide. Progress was slow, however, and at some stages they only managed to move forwards by about 1 foot per day, and one of the villagers died during construction. Eventually, though, it was finished and opened a valuable route to the outside world. This hasn't just allowed villagers to trade more easily, but also made the village a tourist attraction in its own right because of the tunnel. But anyone who has driven along the road will tell you, the route takes you perilously close to the mountain edge, and there's definitely a sense that you could fall off at any moment. Number 10. Transfagarasan Road, Romania. The Transfagarasan Road is a mountain crossing in Romania that connects Transylvania with Wallachia. Historically, these were two regions that were usually at war with each other, so the presence of the Carpathian Mountains to separate them made it easier for citizens to defend themselves. But since they've been united under one country, the lack of transport routes began to cause problems. The current road was built between 1970 and 1974, after the Soviet Union invaded Czechoslovakia. The Romanian government wanted to ensure the military was able to quickly respond to any potential invasions, and to ensure it couldn't be blocked. A route that rose up into the mountains was chosen. This was no easy task and required the use of 6,600 tons of dynamite to clear the way. Working at altitudes of up to 6,600 feet, junior soldiers were left to do the hard work, and their inexperience led to the loss of countless lives. Officially, 40 died, but the true number is believed to be in the hundreds. But the result was an incredible, albeit dangerous road. With hairpin turns, S-curves, and frightening gradients, it's become a popular destination for drivers and cyclists who want a chance to experience the road for themselves. Speeds are generally limited to around 25 miles an hour, though, because if you fail to slow down for a hairpin turn in time, you might find yourself falling thousands of feet down a cliff face. Number 9. Zojila Pass, India. Zojila is a mountain pass that connects India's Kashmir Valley on the western side to the Suru and Indus valleys to the east, and to do so has to cross the western section of the Himalayas. It reaches a maximum height of 11,574 feet, and because of the conditions in the region, its name translates to mean Mountain Pass of Blizzards. For most of its 5.5-mile length, it's a single lane, and very little of it is paved, which means it's often frozen or extremely muddy. If that wasn't enough to deal with, traffic is often held up by flocks of animals that walk into the pass, and when this happens, it can lead to delays of several hours. As the conditions become so bad on the pass, it's closed for most of the year to prevent unnecessary injuries. But even when it's open, it's quite common for drivers to miscalculate their speed and fall off the edge of a cliff. A road that's closed for 6 months a year and takes a further 2 months to clear of ice and snow isn't the most reliable or safest of transport routes, so the Indian government has authorized a huge infrastructure project to provide an alternative. Known as the Zojila Tunnel, it will be 8.5 miles long and will reduce travel time to just 3 hours. It's a massive undertaking though, and once completed at an estimated cost of $1 billion, it'll become the longest two-way tunnel in all of Asia. We're constantly adding more people to the Top 5's production team to bring you all the best content. Be sure to subscribe with notifications on and hit the like button. Number 8. Sani Pass, South Africa. The country of Lesotho is the largest enclaved country in the world and is also the only country on the planet that's entirely at an elevation above 3,281 feet. It's surrounded by mountains in South Africa, and while one side of the country is more easily accessible, if you want to enter from a northeastern direction, your only option is to use the Sani Pass. It's a notorious route that's around 5.5 miles long and climbs 4,300 feet across that distance. Parts of it have a gradient of 1 in 3, and since the entire road is made of gravel, it's particularly susceptible to stormy conditions. Along the pass, you can see the wrecked remains of vehicles that have attempted to drive the route and failed. And because of the number of issues that people face, the South African government has introduced a rule that only 4x4 vehicles are allowed to pass through the border crossing, onto the pass. It's not known how many people have died while trying to drive up this stretch of road, but it's thought to be at least 100 since the year 2000. As with many mountain roads like this, the views from the Sani Pass are simply stunning and look out across the KwaZulu-Natal region of South Africa. For those who do manage to reach the top, the first building they'll find is the highest pub in the southern hemisphere. Number 7. Rohtang Pass, India. The Rohtang Pass is on the eastern end of the Pir Panjal mountain range, which is itself part of the Himalayas and connects the valley of India's Kulu district with the Lahual and Spiti valleys. Passing over the mountains involves reaching heights of up to 13,000 feet, and people have used this route for hundreds of years, but its name, which means pile of dead bodies, gives a clue as to just how dangerous it can be. In comparison to other mountain passes, the road itself isn't particularly difficult and can be traversed by vehicle or by foot. But what makes it so dangerous is the rapidly changing weather conditions that the area experiences. One moment it can seem sunny and calm, and the next a blizzard can move in and reduce visibility to less than a few feet ahead of you. It's only open for use between May and November each year, because during the remaining months it's covered in so much snow that you can't even see which direction it travels. This limitation has meant that in late 2020, a brand new tunnel through the mountain was opened that can remain in operation all throughout the year. And instead of taking up to 6 hours to cross the Rohtang Pass, the journey now takes 30 minutes. Despite the opening of this new route, it's likely tourists and some locals will still opt to take the more treacherous one. And there are now concerns that with reduced traffic, there will be far fewer people to offer assistance to anyone who finds themselves in difficulty. Number 6. North Yungas Road, Bolivia. More commonly known as the Road of Death, the North Yungas Road in Bolivia is probably the most famous, dangerous mountain road in the world. Recently, a bypass is open which allows most traffic to avoid using it entirely, but it remains popular by cyclists and tourists and remains as deadly as it ever has been. It connects the city of La Paz with Bolivia's Yungas region and was originally built in the 1930s. With a narrow path which wraps around cliff edges without any protective rails, there's an ever-present danger of falling off the side and plummeting thousands of feet to the valley floor. At its worst, more than 300 people died along this road every year, simply because of its dangerous design. And there are still countless memorial crosses along the route to remind people how deadly it can be. You'd normally think people would avoid somewhere that's so risky, but before the bypass opened, it was a vital trade route to provide supplies to a region of the country that would otherwise be isolated. One of the most unusual aspects to the road is that because of the risk of the outside edge of vehicle tires on the edge of the cliff, this is the only road in Bolivia that you drive on the left-hand side to allow drivers to judge distances more effectively. While the views may well be stunning, this is one route you most definitely should fully prepare for if you ever plan on taking it on. Number 5. Gotthard Pass, Switzerland. The Gotthard Pass in Switzerland is one of the most scenic roads in the world, but with treacherous turns and deadly cliff edges, all it takes is for a driver to be momentarily distracted by the surrounding scenery and disaster can strike. The pass connects northern and southern Switzerland across the St. Gotthard Massif in the Alps, and without this route through the mountains, Switzerland would have never become what it is today. It's been used for centuries as the main trade route between the two parts of the country, and has now been supplemented by 3 tunnels that allow traffic to pass through safer and quicker than ever before. The original road remains though, and while it's no longer as relied upon, it's become a popular tourist destination, both for those who want to see the sights and for those wanting to experience one of the most challenging and fun roads to drive in all of the world. Still, to this day, there are several deaths each year of drivers who approach the turns with too much speed, so approach it with caution if you ever have the opportunity to go there for yourself. Number 4. Khardung La, India. Reaching a height of up to 17,500 feet, Khardung La is one of the highest roads that you can drive a car on in the world. But with this altitude comes some serious risks to your life, especially for those who aren't familiar with the climate and their surroundings. It's in the Leh district of northern India, provides access across the Lakda mountain range. The road itself was only built in 1976, but this route has long been used for trade and used to see as many as 10,000 horses and camels passing across each year. Now, it's of a strategic importance to India because of the access it provides, but also it's one of the most dangerous roads in the country. Snowfall in the region means it has to close between October and May each year, and during the rest of the time, travelers have to watch out for frequent landslides and washouts, and the difficulty of occasionally needing to reverse along stretches of the road that are only wide enough for one vehicle. The biggest danger of the Khardung La is simply a result of its height, because at that altitude, air contains far less oxygen than at sea level. Altitude sickness is common in people who haven't acclimatized to living in the mountains, and without any medical facilities to offer assistance, it's usually advisable to take altitude sickness medication to prevent complications from developing. Number 3. The Pasubio Road, Italy. The Pasubio Road, which is also known as the 52 Tunnel Road, connects Boccetta Campiglia and Porte del Pasubio across the Pasubio Massif, which is part of the Little Dolomite mountain range in Italy. It was built by the Italian military during the First World War to provide quick access across the country, and is 21,500 feet long, with one stretch around 7,000 feet featuring 52 different tunnels. Each one had to be designed differently, and some even have spirals inside them to change the elevation, which is all the more incredible considering the road was conceived and built in just 9 months. Recently, though, there have been several attempts by the Italian government to close it down, but locals refuse to let them do it. Despite there now being an alternative and much safer route, they see it as an important part of local history. Traveling along the road requires extreme caution because it's very easy to drive over the edge or not realize what direction the road goes until it's too late. And it's particularly dangerous for cyclists who are now banned from using it at all because there were so many fatalities. Number 2. Trollstigen, Norway. The Trollstigen, which means the Troll's Path, is a part of Norway's County Road 63 that links the town of Andalsnes with the village of Valldal. Of course, being such a mountainous country, the construction of the road wasn't as simple as it would be elsewhere in the world, and it had to cross a scenic route that passes by the Stigfossen waterfall at an elevation of 2,300 feet. It took 8 years to construct the road, and it was opened in 1936. But while it was originally a vital transport link, alternatives have recently been built, so Trollstigen has become a tourist attraction for those wanting to experience the road and to access the viewing platform for the waterfall. During the peak tourist season, as many as 2,500 cars drive along the winding stretch every day and face the onslaught of hairpin turns, sweeping bends, and inclines of up to 10%. The road is so tricky to navigate that vehicles more than 41 feet long are prohibited, meaning buses and lorries are unable to go there. Not only is this because of the tight turns of the road, but also because of the ever-present risk of rock falls in the area, which have proven to be more dangerous to larger vehicles over the years. The road is closed during the winter because of heavy snowfall, but it's common for it to be temporarily closed at other times during the year because of the dangerous weather conditions. When everything's just right, however, it's undoubtedly one of the most stunning drives you'll find anywhere on Earth. Number 1. Col de la Bonette, France. At a maximum elevation of 8,900 feet, the Col de la Bonette is a mountain pass that loops around the peak of the Cime de la Bonette mountain peak. There are claims that it's the highest paved road in Europe, and while it's the highest in France, there are several others on the continent that reach a greater altitude. Col de la Bonette, however, is certainly one of the most dangerous. On the actual loop around the peak, the gradient varies between 10 and 15%, and it has some of the sharpest and steepest corners of any road in the world. It's unforgiving too, with 1,000-foot drops to one side, meaning any driver who misjudges their approach won't have much room for error. With hundreds of accidents every year, most avoid the road. But rather than being an important connection, it's actually simply a scenic route and is more commonly used by cyclists. The Tour de France has used the road 4 times in its history, where it served as the highest point on the race, and it remains popular with tourists who want to access unparalleled views across the French Alps. Watch our binge-watching playlist if you'd like to watch all of our most popular top 15 videos. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and get ready to binge.